Hey, it's Jared with Gear and Light. Today we're going to talk about my A7 IV cinema rig. This setup is a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed using it over the past month and a half since I started building this out in different video projects. I got my hands on the A7 IV right when it came out, so I think it was like a couple days after Christmas, and I've been putting this camera through its paces, utilizing it in my everyday type of work, whether it's filming YouTube videos. I'm actually looking into an A7 IV right now, so I have two of them, both my cinema built out rig and then the one that I use here for filming these videos. So I've used them for filming these videos. I've used them for real estate photography, a lot of different projects along the way, some of which I want to talk about, but they're not public yet, so I haven't talked about them yet. But with this setup, this has everything that I utilize on a shoot built into one rig, and I'm able to control most of this all by myself. So I wanted to walk you through this setup and some of the things that I've changed from past setups. And so if you've watched any of my setup videos before, you may have seen some of these things built out in this setup, but this setup is a bit different and it's a bit more compact, and I'm going to explain everything that I'm utilizing here and why I have it set up this way. So with this setup, it's pretty self-contained. I have everything here built in to this one self-contained rig, and so everything is handheld and very easy for me to utilize. So I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to do my best to show you everything here so that you can see it here on camera. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask down in the comment section. So I have the A7 IV, pretty self-explanatory, but I went ahead and purchased the Tilta kit. This kit is a cage, a top handle, and a base plate setup that really is the core for this build out. Now, the reason that I went with Tilta is I fell in love with their handles. They're just very comfortable, and their latest setup for the A7 IV really is an improvement over previous cages that I've had of theirs in the past. Plus, their pricing has come down. Tilta used to be a bit, I don't want to say overpriced. I mean, the quality has always been there, but they're definitely more affordable and competitive than ever before. And so with this setup, I went with Tilta because I really liked the ergonomics and just the different mounting points that they have going on here, and the handle looks and feels absolutely fantastic. So with this setup, of course, the core is the Tilta setup, and as I go and just kind of rotate this around to the side, you can see here that I have the base plate setup that also accepts 15mm rails, and so I've got rails running through as well. The rails are not Tilta because I needed some rails that had threaded ends, and the back plate for the battery that I'm utilizing is small rig, and so I went with small rig rails because the threading was the same. So I've got small rig rails. I've got a battery, like an adapter off the back here that allows for a mini V-mount battery attachment, and so my batteries are V-mount, but I'm not actually sending any battery power out of the V-mount connection points. I'm really only sending power out of this D-tap and out of this USB that comes out of the Indy Pro battery. Now, these Indy Pro batteries are fantastic. They're small, they charge up pretty fast, and one of these batteries tends to last me through a full day's shoot because, you know, the camera isn't powered on the entire time. But this powers everything. This battery powers the camera, it powers the monitor, and it also powers the wireless transmitter that I'll talk about here in a moment. And so because of that, I have to have this breakout box here that allows me to plug multiple D-tap items into it. It's an adapter that then runs into the battery. So that's where my battery power all comes together. The monitor, which is an Atomos Ninja V Plus Pro or whatever it's called these days, the highest level that's available right now, is powered by the battery, as is the Hollyland wireless transmitter. I have everything powered up right now because I will show you a little bit about how all of this works together. So that is the base of the rig itself, of course, is what you attach everything to and what's going to power it. Now, for the lens, I have fallen in love with the IRIX lenses. This IRIX 45 has kind of become my go-to for a lot of what I film, especially when I'm filming handheld. This IRIX lens is really nice. Now, people have commented in the past about why I don't have a follow focus or something like that attached to my to this setup. And really that's because of the way that I hold my camera and the way that I film. Typically when I'm filming kind of run and gun, I'm utilizing the top handle and I have another hand on the lens. And so I've got top handle in my right hand and I've got lens with my left hand, and that allows me to focus manually by myself. So when I'm wanting that cinematic look, the IRIX lenses are both affordable and they perform absolutely fantastic. And there's a lot for me to hold on to there for making the focus pulls myself and trying my best to stay on focus. Of course, if I had a focus puller, I could go with a wireless system and the person could handle that wirelessly, which would be great. I do have the wireless transmitter attached for that. I just don't have the wireless follow focus setup because that does require another person. So I'll get to why I have wireless transmitters here in a moment. So the IRIX glass has just been absolutely fantastic. It is designed very well, and of course it has, you know, geared focus rings on it, focus ring, and of course an aperture iris ring. And I could control those utilizing something like a follow focus. But for me, I like to have the camera close to my body and I want to be holding onto the lens making those adjustments. I feel like I have more stabilization I'm able to offer my camera when my hand is wrapped around the lens as opposed to when it's just holding onto a knob that's off the side of the camera. I know that there are other devices that even Tilta makes that builds that all into a handle, which would give me a good amount of stability. But for me, I mean, I have this camera close. It's tucked in right here into my body when I'm filming. And I'm pulling the camera into my body, utilizing my body as a form of stability for the camera. And then I'm utilizing my hand, which is just right here on the ring, to adjust focus when need be. And I use various features of the camera to make sure that focus is achieved. Of course, on the Atomos itself, I could use focus peaking, and that is often what I use. On the small back of the camera, of course, there's the new focus mapping option, but I haven't utilized that. What would be really great is if on a camera like this, you had a clean HDMI out, and then you had an HDMI out that would mirror the monitor on the back of the camera so that I can use the focus mapping option, which I think is a really cool feature, and be able to see that a little bit easier. On the back of the camera, of course, you can see I have the monitor coming out the side, and so that way I can more easily see what's going on and access that monitor just by looking at the side of it for adjusting settings and stuff like that within the camera, because I do have a clean feed coming out HDMI that goes into the Atomos recorder. On the front of the lens is a matte box from Polar Pro. This is the Basecamp setup, and the reason that I went with this originally is because it's a very good cost-effective setup. That the glass is great, the filters are great. They have lots of options for the variable NDs and mist, and just they've been adding new options. It seems like every now and then they're adding a new option, and so the platform is really nice, and I like how easily these slide in. They have little handles on them that makes them easy to pull out, and so everything is pretty much accessible here, and I could just really easily, if I loosen the appropriate lock, there we go, I can slide this right out. And there's my variable ND. And I love the fact that it has a cage around it and it has a handle on top of it. So that way I'm not accidentally getting fingerprints on this thing and getting anything on the glass that I'm then going to have to worry about cleaning off. That was always a problem with circular type of filters, is just getting my fingers on them on accident. When you're out in the field, you're moving fast, you're working fast, and a lot of times you end up making mistakes like getting your fingerprints on stuff. So this matte box has been great. I do have some gripes about it. It's not the perfect solution. You know, this flag that's on the front here that also acts as a cover when closed to protect the face of the matte box and your filter, of course the front of your lens. It is a little flimsy. It doesn't lock down perfect, and I don't like the fact that it rattles when it is closed, but nonetheless, it's a decent solution. And then of course there's the circular polarizer that's in there as well. Now, moving on to the wireless transmitter and why I use the wireless transmitter. Off camera here, I have, I guess what you would call my director's monitor. And so that is on right now. I have the Hollyland wireless setup on here, and I'll make sure to link to these things down below so that you can check them out. I've been a big fan of the Hollyland wireless transmitters because the range is so good and the latency is so low. So that means that I can have somebody viewing what I'm shooting, whether it be a director or even just a second set of eyes, making sure that I do have things in focus, making sure that I'm not making you know, any mistakes with my shot, having another set of eyes on the camera wirelessly without having to be attached is fantastic. And this new Hollyland system has so much more range than before. This Cosmo C1 system is absolutely fantastic. So you can see I've got this type of antenna. There are different types of antennas. I have this type of antenna on here, and I went with the omnidirectional antennas on the camera, so that way these are transmitting outward from all directions, whereas this is receiving more from a distance, from straight forward. And so as these are pointing forward towards the camera, that's going to produce the best connection. And so I also like the look of these round Omni ones. They remind me of, you know, what FPV drone guys have on their goggles. So this setup, the reason that I have the wireless on here, of course, is for monitoring, but I also often use this camera for live streaming. And so when I'm live streaming an event, I'm wirelessly connected to the Cosmo, the Hollyland Cosmo C1 that is attached to the switcher. And so now I don't have to run cables. The latency is so small that it cuts together perfectly, and it's been a great solution. So this cinema setup that I have here with the A7 IV, you know, a lot of people have been talking about the quality of the image out of the A7 IV and how it's just an absolutely fantastic camera for shooting video. I completely agree. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen my cinema setup for the A7S III and for the FX3. Those are the most recent ones that I have created, and this camera setup right here produces just, I don't want to say it's a superior image, because I don't necessarily think it is a superior image, but getting around the A7 IV for me has just been a great experience. The FX3 is a fantastic camera and it shoots amazing video, as does the A7 III. But when I'm in a pinch and I need that focus mapping, that's a really nice feature to have on the A7 IV. And I'm just really enjoying this camera. For the price point, I think that is where the real argument comes in. And I've got more videos coming up soon talking about this camera more specifically with its features and doing more of a full review of it. But for the cost, this setup right here can't really be beat. For the performance that you get out of this camera, the image that you get from this lens, and just the overall workflow that you get from a setup like this, you can't build something out like this that's going to perform any better for less money. This is a fantastic setup that can get you creating amazing content, amazing video for clients, for yourself, for whomever, and this is a very affordable setup to get yourself going and look professional. This is a very professional looking rig. When people see this, they think this is big time. And what they really are not understanding is that the A7 IV is an affordable camera. So I've got links to everything down in the description below if you're thinking about building out a system like this. I think this is one of the best systems that you can have, that not only is great for filming just run and gun stuff, but also when you need somebody viewing, whether it's a director or you need a second set of eyes with the wireless, the Hollyland Cosmo C1, and then also if you do any form of live streaming where you want to be more agile and handheld, this Cosmo C1 setup is also fantastic. I'm gonna have a dedicated video showing you more about this, you know, the latency, you know, full-on review of the Cosmo C1, but just a little bit of a taste of this setup. So I know this video is kind of all over the place. I just wanted to introduce you to this setup and show you how I'm utilizing my A7 IV in a more cinematic format for the talking head videos that I often do, for real estate videos that I do, for some of the event live streaming, which usually is like elementary school performances and stuff like that. And then for the occasional video project that I get to do that's a little bit more fun, a little bit more interactive, like a music video or something like that, this setup is just going to be very versatile and usable in all of those different scenarios. So questions down in the comment section below. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you back in another video soon. Take care.